Alright, so in today's video, we're going to learn another important paper 2 topic, and paper 1 topic, and that paper 1 topic is called time. Now the first concept here that we're going to learn is how to convert time, and by convert I mean from fraction to hours and minutes. Let me give you an example to show you what I mean. And before doing that, let's recall a couple of conversions basically, and that they are that 1 hour holds 60 minutes, so you got to remember that, and 1 minute holds 60 seconds, so consequently 1 hour holds 3600 seconds. Okay, now alright, suppose you're given 5.5 hours and the question's asking you to convert this to write hours and minutes separately. So it's a pretty straightforward question, and the answer to this is going to be worked out by saying that we have 5 complete hours, so that means there's going to be 5 hours. There's no debate about that. And if you want to work out the number of minutes, so what we're going to do is we're going to see what the decimal value is, and that is 0.5. So we're going to take 0.5 and multiply it by 60. So 0.5 multiplied by 60 is equal to 30. Or I'm sure that you must remember that or must know that already, that 0.5 of an hour basically means half an hour, which is equal to 30 minutes. So that was one very simple example. Let's do a couple more examples to see how this is done. Let's say you're given 3.25 hours and you're asked to convert this again to hours and minutes. Not convert, actually, write hours and minutes separately. So we can see that we have 3 whole hours, so this is going to be 3 hours and something. There's no debate about that. And then we have 0.25. So 0.25 times 60. 0.25 basically means a quarter. And if you remember the fractional value of 0.25, that will be amazing. That's equal to 1 upon 4. So 1/4 of 60 is equal to 15. So quarter hour means 15 minutes. So 3.25 hours are basically equal to 3 hours and 15 minutes. Alright, let's do another example. Let's say you have 7.75 hours, and again your job is to write the number of hours and the number of minutes separately. So how can you work that out? Let's see. So 7.75 basically means we're going to have 7 complete hours, no debate about that. 0.75, I want to convert this into minutes, so I can do that by multiplying by 60, which means 3/4 of 60, and that is equal to 45. So this is equal to 7 hours and 45 minutes, and this is going to be our final answer. Alright, what about decimal values such as let's say 8.6 hours, right? What are you going to do now? So again, this is going to be 8 hours and something. We're not there's no confusion about that. But how do you and I work out the number of minutes? Well, that's pretty simple. We're going to take 0.6 separately and multiply it by 60. So 0.6 times 60 basically means we're going to do 6 times 60 first, which is equal to 360, and then we're going to move the decimal one place back, which is going to give us 36. So this is how you can convert time from decimals to hours and minutes separately. Now what if you have, let's say, instead of decimals, let's say you have fractions. Like suppose you're given 9 whole 1 upon 3 hours, and your task is to write this as hours and minutes separately. So again, the concept is the same. This is going to be 9 complete hours, so we're just going to write 9 here in blue. And if I want to work out the number of minutes, I can do that by simply calculating 1/3 of 60, which is equal to 20. So this is going to be equal to 9 hours and 20 minutes. Now what if it's the other way around? What if you're given hours and minutes and you are asked to write this in fraction or perhaps in decimal form? So let's see how we can do that. Suppose you're given, this by the way was example number 5. Let's do example number 6. Suppose you're given 7 hours and 50 minutes, right? And you're asked to write this in fraction. So this is going to be 7 something, right? 7 whole something. There's no confusion about that. Now how do we work out the number of with the fractional value next to 7? So we're going to take 50, which is the number of minutes, and divide by 60, so that we can convert 50 minutes into hours. So the 2 zeros get cancelled out, and we have 7 whole 5/6. Alright, let's do another example. Let's say you're given 12 hours and let's say 40 minutes, right? So again, this is going to be 12 whole something, so 12, and then if you want to work out the fractional value next to 12, so we're going to take this 40 here and we're going to divide it by 60. So 40 divided by 60 is going to be equal to 2 upon 3, so we're just going to put 2 upon 3 next to it. Or if you want to write this in an improper fraction, that's going to be equal to 12 times 3, which is 36. 36 plus 2 is equals to 38, so 38 upon 3 hours. So this is how you can convert hours from fraction or from decimal to hours and minutes separately. Okay, now the next key concept is how do we record time, and main methods through which time is recorded, and they are 12-hour clock and 24-hour clock. Alright, so we have a 12-hour clock, our system. When we're AM and PM, and in 20 no such thing as AM or clock starts at 12 AM. Okay, and at this it's 0000. Now next, right after 12 AM, then in the next hour it's going to be 1 AM, and as you can see that when I'm writing the number of hours, since it's singular, I'm just writing it as 1. I'm not writing it as 01. This indicates that the time that this time is recorded in 12-hour clock, and when we're writing the same in 24-hour, we write it as 01. The 01 indicates that the time here is in 24 hours, and you can also see that in 24-hour clock there is no such thing as AM or PM. Now let's say you have 3 AM, so I'm going to write this as 3.00 AM in 12-hour clock, and this is going to be the same as the number of hours are going to be the same in 24 hours as well. So this is going to be 0600 in 24 hours. Suppose you have, let's say, 11 AM, so in 24-hour clock it's going to be 1100. Now when the clock hits 12 in a 12-hour clock, it turns into PM, so 12 hours have passed, and in 24 hours it is going to be as 1200. Now this is where the times in the 12-hour clock and 24-hour clock become different. So right after 12 PM we have 1 PM, and in 24-hour clock this is going to be seen as 1300, and then when you have 3 PM this is going to be seen as 1500. You can see that what we're doing is we're simply adding 12, and we do that right after 12 PM. And then when, let's say, it's 6 PM, so what's 6 plus 12? That's 18, so that means in 24 hours this is going to be seen as 1800. And then let's say you have 10 PM, so this in 24 hours is going to be as 2200. Oops, sorry, 2200. And then at 11:59 PM in 24-hour clock, this is going to be as 23:59. And then when it's back at 12 AM, we're going to see that the 24-hour clock goes back to 0000. So in short, as far as it's AM in 12-hour clock, the times are going to be the same, but right after AM, when it turns into PM, if you want to convert 12-hour clock, right after 12 PM in fact, so right after 12 PM, if you want to convert a 12-hour time into a 24-hour time, you can do that by simply adding 12 hours. As you can see, we've added 12 here, we've added 12 here, and that's what we've done for the next values as well, plus 12, so on and so forth. Alright, so that's how you can convert a 12-hour clock to a 24-hour clock. And if you were to do it the other way around, suppose you were to convert a 24-hour clock to a 12-hour clock, so if it's less than 12, it's going to be the same, and the unit is going to be AM. For example, let's say you're asked to convert 7:30 from 12-hour clock to from 24-hour clock to 12-hour clock. So you can see that since it's less than 12, so it's going to be the same. The number of hours are going to be the same. Minutes, of course, will be the same irrespective, but the unit is going to be AM. And if, let's say, you're asked to convert, let's say, 1950 from 24 hours to 12 hours, so you can do that by simply subtracting 12 from 1950, and that's going to give you 7, and so you're going to have 750, but this time the unit is going to be PM. So as long as it's more than 12 in 24 hours, the unit is going to be PM. For as long as it's less, it's going to be AM, and the number of hours are going to stay the same. So I hope that's clear. The conversion part is clear now. Okay, so we're now going to talk about addition of time. We're going to understand this with the help of a couple of examples. So let's do an example and say you're given the departure time of a certain flight, and the departure time is given to you as, let's say, 7:45. All right, now this 7:45 means that we're talking about a 24-hour clock. Why? Because as you can see that the number of hours are written as 07, and let's say the duration of the flight is 3 hours and 10 minutes. And suppose you want to figure out what the arrival time is going to be. So we can do that very simply by simply taking the departure time and in it adding the duration of the flight. So let's do that. We have 0745 and in it let's add 0310. So what's 45 plus 10? That's 55. And what's 7 plus 3? That's 10. So straight away we have our answer, and that is 10:55. Now there are a couple of things that can happen when you're adding time, and what are they? Let's find out. So let's say that you are boarding a flight and the departure time is, let's say 18 hours, 18:50, right? And let's say that there's something wrong with the spelling. Yeah, departure, it's fine now. Let's say that the duration of the flight is given to you as 5 hours, actually not 5 hours, 3 hours and 40 minutes, right? So theoretically it's the same as example 1, and you have to figure out the arrival time, and you can do that by again taking the departure time and in it adding the duration of the flight. So 18:50, and in it I'm going to add 3:40. So, and let's put a 0 here just to be safe. So 50 plus 40 is 90, and 18 plus 3 is 21. Now the problem here is, right away we can see that you don't have, that there's something wrong with the number of minutes. Okay, you can't have minutes exceeding 60. So how can we fix that? Well, we can fix that by simply subtracting 60. You'll notice that every time I'm subtracting a certain value, I'll put a bracket just so we can distinguish easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 60 from 90, but I'll compensate this by adding, or you can say by increasing the number of hours by 1. So what happens if I add 1 to 21? It becomes 22. And what happens if I subtract 60 from 90? It becomes 30. So my arrival time is going to be 22:30. Let's do another example following the same concept. Let's say you go to watch a movie, all right, and the starting time of that particular movie is let's say 22:40, right? And let's say that the duration of the movie is 4 hours and 30 minutes. So at what time will it end? Let's see. Now here we're going to learn two concepts at once, and let me tell you what those are. The first one is theoretically we're going to take 22:40, and in it we're going to add 4 hours and 30 minutes, and once we do that we can see that 40 plus 30 is equals to 70, and right away there's a problem, and that is that the number of minutes have exceeded 60. So you and I at this point both know how to fix that. But there is another problem, and that is when we add 22 and 4 together we get 26. So we can see that not only the number of minutes have exceeded 60, the number of hours have also exceeded 24. So we're going to fix this one by one. We're going to start by fixing the number of minutes, and how are we going to do that? We're going to subtract 60 from 70, and we'll compensate this by increasing the number of hours by 1. So 70 minus 60 is 10, and 26 plus 1 is 27. Now what's the second problem? The second problem is that we have exceeded 24. Now what this basically means is that we are now in the next day. And how many hours have passed since the next day started? We can figure that out by subtracting 24 from 2710. So once I subtract 24 from this, 10 minus 0 will remain 10. 27 minus 24 is going to give me 3. So our answer is, our final answer is 310. But whenever we're writing an answer like this is how we're going to write it. So I'm going to write 310:0310 the next day. Alright, so just make sure that you write this. Okay, So that was addition of time, and I've covered the two things that are likely to happen when you're adding time. Now let's talk about subtraction of time. So when you're subtracting time, let's start off with a very simple example. Let's say you are not given the departure time, right? You're not given what the departure time is. Instead, you're given the duration, which is, let's say, 5 hours and 15 minutes. And you're given that the arrival time is, let's say, 15 hours and 50 minutes. And your job is to figure out the departure time. So theoretically, what we're going to do is we're going to take the arrival time, which is 15:50, and from it we're going to subtract 5 hours and 15 minutes. Okay, so 50 minus 15 is 35, and 15 minus 5 is 10. So there you have it, 10:35 is going to be your departure time. So again, that was a very simple example, but things can get slightly complicated. And what to do when that happens, let's find out. So let's say you're not given the departure time. Instead, you're given the duration, which is, let's say, 7 hours and 40 minutes, and you're given that the arrival time is 13:20. Okay, now what can we do here? What should we do here? Well, theoretically, we're going to do the same. We're going to take the arrival time, and from it we're going to deduct the duration of the flight, which is 7:40. Now what's 20 minus 40? You can't do that. You can't take 40 and subtract it from 20. So what we're going to do is we're going to borrow an hour in terms of minutes and give it to 20. Alright, I'll repeat what we're going to do. We're going to borrow an hour in terms of minutes, as in we're going to borrow 60 minutes from 13 and we're going to give it to 20. So what's going to happen is 20 is going to increase by 60 and 13 will decrease by 1. So the number of hours will now be 12 and the number of minutes will now be 80. So 1280, and from it we have to subtract 740. This you and I can do very conveniently because 80 minus 40 is 40 and 12 minus 7 is 05. So there you have it. The arrival time is basically, or was, 5:40. Okay, now let's do a third example, and in this example we're going to cover another problem that we can face, and that is, let's say again you're not given the departure time. Alright, instead you're given the duration, which is 8 hours and 35 minutes, and after flying for 8 hours and 35 minutes the arrival time turns out to be 4:15 in the morning. So how are we going to figure out the departure time? Again, theoretically it's very simple. We're going to take 4:15 and from it we're going to subtract 08:35. Now there are two problems that we're going to face here, and let's address them one by one. Sorry, I forgot to put a bracket here earlier. So those the problems that I mentioned are, you can't subtract 30 from 15, so let's fix that first. So we're going to fix that by borrowing an hour from 4 and giving it to 15, so that this increases by 60 and the number of hours will decrease by 1. So this is going to become 375, and from it we have to subtract 08:30. Now while I can subtract the 30 from 75, I need to make sure that the hours can also be subtracted, but right now that's not the case. So I can fix that by taking 375 and in it I'm going to add 24 hours. Why? Because these are two different days. So in order to make sure that we're in the same day, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 375 and in it I'm going to add 24 hours. So what does this become? This becomes 2775. Now from this let's subtract 08:30. Now what's 75 minus 30? That's simply equal to 45. Let me put a bracket here. And what is 27 minus 8? That, let's figure out. Let's reduce this by 1 and give 1 to 17. So that's 17 minus 8, which is 9, and 1 minus 0 is 1. So our final answer is 1945, the previous day. So this is how, students, you can add and subtract time. So that's one concept that we've covered, and when we meet in the next class, we're going to address the queries that if there are any in this, and we're going to do some more concepts, and then we're going to do past paper questions, inshallah. So I'll see you then.